Have you ever wondered what it takes to get a new medicine from a lab discovery to your local pharmacy? It's a massive, global effort, and at its heart is a set of rules called the ICH Guidelines. So, what exactly is ICH? It stands for the International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use. That's a mouthful. Essentially, it's a global initiative that brings together regulatory authorities and the pharmaceutical industry to discuss and agree on scientific and technical aspects of drug development and registration. The goal is to make the process more efficient and uniform across regions like Europe, Japan, and the United States, without compromising on safety and quality. The E in ICH Guidelines stands for efficacy. This series covers everything related to clinical trials in humans. We're focusing on E2 through E17, which is a massive chunk of this clinical world. To make this easier to remember, let's start with a simple phrase. Safety bosses collect data. Plan development. This little trick will help us navigate the first few guidelines. Let's break it down. Safety points us to ICH-E2. This is all about pharmacovigilance, or safety surveillance. E2 isn't just one guideline. It's a whole series from E2A to E2F. It lays out the rules for how companies must collect, manage, and report any adverse events that happen during clinical trials and even after a drug is on the market. E2A, for example, defines what needs to be in a clinical safety data management plan. E2B covers the electronic transmission of individual case safety reports, ensuring data can be shared quickly and efficiently. E2E is all about planning for pharmacovigilance throughout a drug's life cycle. So, when you see a drug commercial listing potential side effects, the process for collecting and reporting that information is governed by the E2 guidelines. It's the bedrock of patient safety. Next in our phrase is bosses, which stands for ICE3. This guideline is about the structure and content of clinical study reports. Think of it as the ultimate final report for a clinical trial. It's a huge, comprehensive document that tells the entire story of a trial, what the objective was, how it was designed, who participated, what the results were, and what it all means. Regulators need this detailed report to scrutinize every aspect of the study before they can even consider approving a drug. It ensures transparency and allows for a thorough, independent review. A well-written E3 report is absolutely critical for a successful drug application. Following bosses, we have collect data, which points to ICH, E4, and E5. E4 is about dose-response information. It's not enough to know a drug works. We need to know how well it works at different doses. Does a higher dose mean a better effect? Does it also mean more side effects? E4 guides companies on how to design studies to find the optimal dose that balances efficacy and safety. It's about finding that just right amount. Then comes E5, represented by data, which deals with ethnic factors in the acceptability of foreign clinical data. This is super important for global drug development. E5 allows data from a clinical trial conducted in one region, say Europe, to be used for a drug application in another region, like Japan. It outlines what needs to be considered, such as potential differences in how different ethnic populations metabolize drugs or respond to treatment. This guideline helps avoid unnecessary duplication of trials, saving time and money, and getting medicines to patients faster worldwide. It's a bridging study, as they're called between different parts of the world. And finally, plan development brings us to ICH-E6, Good Clinical Practice, or GCP. This is the big one. If the ICH guidelines are the playbook, E6 is the constitution. It's an international, ethical, and scientific quality standard for designing, conducting, recording, and reporting trials that involve human subjects. GCP protects the rights, safety, and well-being of trial participants and ensures that the clinical trial data are credible and accurate. Anyone involved in clinical research, from doctors to data managers, lives and breathes by the principles of GCP. It's the gold standard for clinical trial conduct. So, our first memory phrase, safety bosses collect data, plan development, gets us through E2 to E6, covering safety, study reports, dose response, ethnic factors, and good clinical practice. Pretty neat, right? Now, let us move on to the next set of guidelines with a new memory phrase. Reports from Global Clinics Guide, Smart Controlled Pediatric QT Biomarker Regions. This one is a bit longer, but it covers a huge amount of ground from E7 all the way to E17. Let's start with reports from Global Clinics, which will take us from E7 to ADS. Reports refers to ICH E7, which focuses on studies in support of special populations, geriatrics. Older adults often take multiple medications and may have changes in how their bodies process drugs. E7 ensures that drugs likely to be used by the elderly are specifically studied in that population to understand their unique safety and efficacy profile. From Global Points to ICH E8, General Considerations for Clinical Trials. This guideline provides a high-level overview of the principles of clinical development. It discusses things like development objectives, study design, and the overall approach to generating the evidence needed for a drug approval. It's the strategic blueprint for a clinical trial program. Clinics brings us to ICH E9, Statistical Principles for Clinical Trials. This is the heart of scientific rigor. E9 emphasizes the need for a statistician's involvement from the very beginning of trial planning. It covers everything from how to randomize patients into different treatment groups to how to analyze the data to avoid bias. Without sound statistical principles, the results of a clinical trial are meaningless. E9 ensures that the conclusions drawn are valid and reliable. And Guide represents ICH E10, which is about the choice of control group in clinical trials. To prove a new drug works, you need to compare it to something. But what? E10 provides a framework for choosing the right comparison, whether it's a placebo, an existing standard treatment, or a different dose of the same drug. The choice of the control group is a fundamental design decision that dramatically impacts what a trial can prove. So, Reports from Global Clinics Guide covers geriatrics, trial principles, statistics, and control groups. Now for the second half of our phrase, Smart Controlled Pediatric QT Biomarker Regions. SMART is for ICH E11 and its addendum E11A, focusing on pediatric populations. Children are not small adults. Their bodies are still developing, and they handle drugs differently. E11 and E11A provide a framework for the ethical and scientific development of medicines for children, outlining when and how pediatric studies should be conducted. This has been a game changer, moving us away from simply guessing pediatric doses based on adult data. Control points to ICH E12, Principles for Clinical Evaluation of New Antihypertensive Drugs. This is an example of a guideline for a specific therapeutic area. It gives detailed advice on how to design trials specifically for drugs that treat high blood pressure, a very common condition. Pediatric QT. This part of our phrase links to guidelines. QT stands for ICHE14, which deals with the clinical evaluation of a drug's effect on the QT interval. The QT interval is a measure of the heart's electrical activity, and some drugs can prolong it, which can lead to a dangerous heart rhythm. E14 outlines how to conduct a thorough QT study to assess this risk for most new drugs. It's a critical safety check. Two next ward biomarker points to ICH E15 and E16. E15 is about pharmacogenomics and pharmacogenetics, which is the study of how our genes affect our response to drugs. This guideline helps integrate genomic biomarkers into drug development, paving the way for personalized medicine giving the right drug to the right patient. E16 takes this further, covering genomic biomarkers for trial design, patient selection, and more. It's about using genetic information to make clinical trials smarter and more efficient. Finally, Regions takes us to ICH E17, which focuses on multi-regional clinical trials. As drug development becomes more and more global, companies often run a single large trial across many different countries and regions. E17 provides principles on how to design and conduct these trials so that the results are acceptable to all participating regulatory agencies. It harmonizes the approach to global trials, building on the principles of E5. And there you have it. From EDA to E17, we've journeyed through the entire framework. These guidelines are not just bureaucratic hurdles. They are the result of decades of learning and international collaboration. They represent a global commitment to developing medicines based on sound science, ethical principles, and an unwavering focus on patient well-being. Understanding this framework gives you a real appreciation for the immense effort and rigor behind every medicine you see. I hope this deep dive was helpful and demystified the world of ICH guidelines for you. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content on the fascinating world of drug development. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.